Hi everyone, Shaham. This video I'm going to briefly outline the next few videos that I'm going to record and show to profile a FHIR resource to show how to do it within the implementation guide setup that I showed in the earlier video. So this will be a hand-on example. What we're going to go through is creating a profile for the FHIR observation resource. So let's go take a look at that. This is the page observation resource. This is the resource we're going to create a profile for. And we are going to use a certain guidance that is described in this resource. So if you scroll down, the observation resource page and read the section that is about using codes and observations, there is a discussion of how that field and the value field can be used, and it gives 4 different patterns for using those fields. And so here in each one of these points, it talks about the code field and the value field and how it could be used. And then it gives some guidance about how to use those. And in this profile, we're going to look at this guidance. So we're going to do it this way, number 2. And we'll talk more about that later when we get there. But it helps to kind of be familiar with some of that documentation. So we're in this profile, we're going to constrain the observation resource to say that the code field can be populated with certain values that come from a value set. The value set is a FHIR resource. Click on that. It is a resource. It's considered a conformance resource, a terminology conformance resource, and we could talk about that more later. But if you browse to that page for value sets and be a little bit familiar with what a value set is, and again, it has the usual table describing the content of a value set and so forth. So we'll have to work with that resource. Value sets are defined in terms of code systems. So that's another resource. And click here, you'll see this is another resource. It's called code system. And again, this is another important resource to be familiar with. Go ahead and read some of this if you have time. And it has the usual documentation, the various fields and the overall structure of the resource and so forth. So we're going to work with that. And our profile is going to say the value field on observation is going to be a Boolean value. So I'll show how to do that. The example, this profile and the use of the observation resource in this hands-on tutorial I'm giving, it's meant to capture the same meaning of this entity, karyotypic sex, within the PhenoPackets schema. It's a project, a data model, a schema. And if we go to that page, I'm following to the karyotypic sex page, which is a building block within the PhenoPacket schema. This is a data model and schema for capturing phenotype-related information for various use cases. So this simple building block, it's sort of an enumeration of values. So it's a collection of these values, and the value have a number assigned to them, and there's a description. And this enumeration, this let's call it an entity, this structure, is used in other places in PhenoPacket schema to fill in a field with one of these values. So if there's a field to capture the karyotypic sex of a person, for example, one of these values filled in FHIR, the way to represent the idea that someone has an XX or an XY chromosome can be captured with an observation instance. So that's why we're picking observation, to capture the fact that someone has one of these chromosomes. And these values are going to be the values that our profile is going to enforce or validate. And these values are going to be the ones in the code system and the value set. So we're going to try kind of profile observation to capture this and represent it. And we'll try to see how to deal with some of these constraints that are stated in the PhenoPacket schema, how to say it's not null, the idea of a default. So in here it says if it's null, it's assumed 0. We'll briefly talk about being able to specify defaults in FHIR, but it's usually not a good idea, and you'll see some documentation for that. Okay, and okay. So the profile we create, it's an example of how to work with IG, but it can be used to validate an observation instance to make sure it complies with the profile, which also means it complies with the value set and the code system and so forth. And while we do that, we're going to learn a little bit more about how to possibly customize the directory structure for the input folder that I showed in the previous video. I'll show the sort of the built-in assumptions about the structure, but you could also add to that. We'll talk about how to add additional documentation eventually to the IG in addition to the profiles that you create. And we'll review maybe a little bit more the content that's generated in the output folder based on the profile information that you're adding to the IG. And because of the dependency and how it works in FHIR, we'll have to work sort of backwards. So we'll define the code system first, because we need that to define the value set. And we need the value set to say that an observation has to use that value set. And we'll bind the value set to the code field, and we'll say that the value field will be a Boolean. Okay. Sorry, I'm just correcting things as we go along here. And I'll also write a example instance, a JSON instance that is compliant with the profile. And you could also write instances that are not compliant to check that actually your profile is flagging these instances as not valid. We'll see how the IG deals with invalid ones, if it flags that or not. So we'll do that, and the examples, we'll configure them in the IG so they're visible in the static website that's generated. So you could see the profile and you could see an example of data that's compliant with that profile. All this work is going to take several videos, so this video is just to kind of describe what's going to happen next, and I'll put the videos up in this order. And that's about it. Please like and subscribe if you find these videos useful. It will encourage me to keep going, and leave a comment. Let me know what you're interested in next, and if there's anything I could do to improve the content or the quality of these videos. Also, at some point, check out some of these resources listed here. They're still work in progress, and I will have a follow-up video to describe them. Keep in mind that this content is for educational purposes. There are no guarantees of accuracy and completeness, and you should use at your own risk. You might be seeing a few YouTube cards on the screen. They're suggested next videos or related playlists.